You can't be a coward. You just cannot be a coward. Stoicism is about becoming your best self, morally, physically, spiritually, intellectually. It's about rising to meet the challenges of life on the one hand, and then also rising to the level of your potential. That's what Stoicism means to me. I'm Ryan Holiday. I've written now 10 books about ancient philosophy, talked to everyone from the NBA to the NFL. What Stoicism is at its core is this idea that we don't control what happens, we control how we respond, and that we should always respond with excellence. So in today's episode, I want to give you some best practices from Stoicism that you can apply in your actual life that will help you understand what Stoicism is. It's been a rough fucking year, like just a rough year for everyone. But Marcus Aurelius, at the end of his life, as he was facing death even, the scariest thing that a human can face, he said, remind yourself of all the things that you've been through and what you've had to endure. He was trying to buck himself up to go, of course you can get through this. Think of all the things that you've gotten through in your life. And that's what you have to think about with what you're going through today, big and small. You've been through things like this before. You can get through this. You've gotten through worse. And when you know that, it helps you. When Edison's factory burns down, he says, I've been through things like this before. He's like, it's going to prevent me from getting bored. I'm going to use this. And that's what a Stoic does. They use their past experiences to inspire and motivate them and give them confidence for whatever it is that they're having to face right now. And yeah, so some of the habits, it's setting a routine, it's being active, it's actively experiencing nature in some way. One of my favorite exercises from the Stoics is, and the most beautiful lines from the Stoics, it's not Marcus Aurelius describing the Colossus of Rhodes or the aqueducts or the Colosseum. It's Marcus Aurelius writing about the way a stalk of grain is bending under its own weight, or the sound that plucking a grape makes, or he's talking about the furrowed brow of a lion. So he would have seen that in like the horrible carnage of the Colosseum. What he's spotting, he's actively looking for beauty amidst what would have been a violent, disgusting, dark place. Right. And so actively doing that, it's not like, oh, look at that pretty sunset. It should be like, look at the lines on this table. Like, how did, finding it in the ordinary. You can't be a coward. You just cannot be a coward. The first virtue for the Stoics is courage. It's the virtue on which all the other virtues depend. Doing the right thing requires courage. What is the point of wisdom if it's not to give you insight as to what to be courageous about? So you could be brave, so you could go out and be fearless in whatever it is that you do. And whatever it is that you do, I promise you, it will be better the less motivated, the less informed by fear that you are. The secret to productivity, but most of all happiness, is to not be so reachable. We have our phones, we have emails, we have watches, we have 50 different social inboxes, and then we wonder why we never get anything done. Seneca says if you want to improve, be content to be seen as ignorant about some matters. You can't always know what's going on. You can't always be reachable. Napoleon famously would wait 3 weeks until he opened his mail because he knew that most issues would resolve themselves. If you are always reachable, if you can be gotten a hold of at a moment's notice, you will not be focused on the big important things. You will not be doing your work, and you will not be philosophical. You're busy, I'm busy, but how much of what we're busy with actually matters? Marcus Aurelius says, ask yourself with everything you do and say, is this essential? Because most of what we do and say is not essential. And he's so right. Most of what we do is because people asked us to do it, or people told us to do it, or that's how we've always done it. Do we actually need to do it? If we found out we were dying tomorrow, would we keep doing it? Would we do it the way we're doing it? Absolutely not. So he says, when you ask yourself, is this essential? You eliminate so much of what you don't need to be doing. And then he says, you get the double benefit of now doing fewer things better. That's why you ask yourself this question, is this essential? Do I actually need to be doing it? Am I doing it the way that it needs to be done? And you ask this of everything you do and say and think. The secret to life, to happiness, to relationships, according to the Stoics, is one thing. It's taking a minute before you respond, right? The Stoics say we don't control what happens, we control how we respond. Viktor Frankl talks about between the stimulus and the response, there's a moment. And in this moment, in this brief instance, this is when we choose who we are, what we're going to be, what's important to us. You don't have to respond right away. You can wait. Put a second of pause in there. Just wait a beat. You can be angry. You can be provoked. You can be frustrated. You can be scared. But you don't have to take an action based on that emotion. You have the ability to choose what you do in response. If you take a beat, if you take a minute, you're probably going to respond better. If you want to understand what's happening, you have to zoom out. When you're watching the news, when you're freaking out about what's happening in the world, it's because you're looking at it up close. You think all the things that you're doing are important. You think what you're worried about is important. In fact, these things are minuscule, unimportant. Let me show you something. These are ants on my farm. Marcus Aurelius talks about how even armies, nations, are just like little ants fighting over scraps of land, right? What we think we're after, what we think we're doing, what we think we're accomplishing, we think it's so important, but it's puny. And when we zoom out a little bit, we finally get some perspective, we get some clarity, we realize how exaggerated, what a preposterous sense of our own proportions we have. So whatever you're focused on, whatever you're worried about, whatever you're convinced is of the utmost importance, I promise you, if you just zoom out a little bit, you see it from the 10,000 foot view, if you see it out of the window of an airplane, it will put it in its proper perspective, and it will remind you that you're not nearly as important, things aren't nearly as dire or significant as you think. If you just relax, you can work your way through them. These are urgent things that the Stoics want you to remember to think about every day. First, events are objective, our judgments about them are not. That's from Epictetus. As Epictetus also says, things that are not in our control, that are not up to us, that are not dependent on our choices, are not worth worrying about, not worth getting upset about. As Marcus Aurelius says, fame and legacy are worthless because you won't be around to enjoy them. You have to focus on doing the right thing right now. And then as Marcus Aurelius says, the right thing is always the right thing. You ignore the rewards, you ignore what other people say or do. You may even be punished for these things, but you do the right thing because it's the right thing. And then the final thing that we hear from the Stoics over and over again is that life is short. Memento mori, remember you are mortal. Live as if you could die at any moment because you could, and that will help you do the right thing, not worry about what's not in your control, and it'll help put your judgments and your opinions always in perspective. Thanks for watching. Every day I send out a philosophy-inspired email, ancient wisdom for your actual life. You can sign up totally for free at dailystoic.com/email.